The United Kingdom is implementing new coronavirus restrictions as the number of new cases surge across the country. Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the new restrictions today in an effort to curb the skyrocketing numbers of new cases. Just last month, the Prime Minister urged UK residents to return to the workplace in an effort to rebuild the nation's crippled economy. This morning, he went on the record saying the UK was at, quote, a perilous turning point in the pandemic. His announcement comes just one day after the UK recorded its highest number of newly confirmed cases since May. So far, more than 401,000 people have been infected by COVID-19 across the UK, resulting in more than 41,800 deaths. Health officials warn that if the virus continues to spread without government intervention, it could reach as high as 50,000 new cases daily in the UK come mid-October. CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams joins us now from London. Welcome, Holly. Thank you for being with us. So, Boris Johnson has implemented a series of new restrictions across the UK in this effort to slow the spread of COVID-19. What more can you tell us about the new mandates?
Yeah, there were really two parts to what Prime Minister Johnson announced today. On the one hand, they're bringing in tighter restrictions to try and flatten the curve of this second wave of infections that has hit the UK. On the other hand, they're bringing in harsher penalties because, as the Prime Minister said today, there's no point in having these new rules if people don't comply with them. So to give you an example of how that works, masks are now going to be compulsory for retail and hospitality staff, as well as people riding in taxis. And the penalty for a first-time offence is £200 or around $250. For businesses that don't comply with these new regulations, the fine can be £10,000. That's close to $13,000, or they could even be shut down. Pubs and restaurants are now going to be required to close their doors at 10 p.m. And they're also tightening up their restrictions around social gatherings. So they already have something in this country called the Rule of Six, where people are not supposed to gather in groups of more than 6 people. Today, the Prime Minister said that weddings should be attended by no more than 15 people. And it looks as though the public will not be allowed back into soccer stadiums this season. He also said that there will be more police on the street, and he also suggested that the military could even be drafted in to support the police, although we don't really have any details about how that will work. Prime Minister Johnson stressed that this is not a return to the kind of full lockdown that the UK saw in March or April. For instance, schools are going to remain open, at least for the foreseeable, and businesses, he wants them to remain open. But he said that these new regulations could stay in place for perhaps 6 months.
So, Holly, what do health officials believe is driving this rapid spread of coronavirus across the UK after it appeared that the country pretty much had a handle on it?
Right. So the Prime Minister actually quoted a pretty worrying statistic in Parliament today. He said that a month ago, the average daily infection rate, the number of new cases being detected each day, was around 1,000. And he said now it is pretty close to quadrupled that. And he said if the government didn't act, then as early as next month, the United Kingdom could be seeing hundreds of deaths every day. So it's pretty clear that the United Kingdom has been hit by a second wave of infections, along with a number of other European countries. And really, that's not surprising. I mean, going back to the early days of the pandemic, we were speaking to experts who were saying, look, what is going to happen over the next few months is very clear. It's going to be lift and suppress. So when governments succeed in bringing the infection rate down, they're going to lift restrictions to try and breathe some life into the economy. Then, when infections spike, they'll suppress. They'll bring those restrictions back in. And that seems to be what's happening. In fact, Prime Minister Johnson echoed that last week when he said that it was inevitable that the UK had been hit by a second wave of infections.
So, Holly, you are there. You're in the UK. What is your sense? Do you believe that we could see the Prime Minister enact additional lockdown measures, including finally closing, or not finally, but once again closing schools?
So there's been a lot of speculation in the British media over the last few days about the government perhaps bringing in, a full lockdown or tighter measures. I think what the government here is trying to do is what every government is trying to do all around the world, which is balance the needs of the economy, of trying to keep it afloat on one hand, and on the other hand, trying to minimise deaths and protect the health system. Prime Minister Boris Johnson made it very clear today that he doesn't want to bring in any more restrictions, but he said he reserves the right to do so if he needs to.
All right. Well, Holly Williams in the UK, thank you so much for joining us.